what if I could describe something that I wanted? It could be I could describe a salt shaker. I could describe a car. What if I could use that or augmented reality or virtual reality and have a computer system with AI behind it, natural language processing, another number of computer vision, number of other technologies that are all exponentially accelerating and converging in their progress. Put all that together. What if I could, so to speak, talk to CAD? I don't need any specialized knowledge. I may not have an engineering degree anymore. But now I can tell it what I want, maybe by logging into a website with maybe a verbal version of a ChatGPT interface, have a conversation about it, and that spits me back out a model and says, hey, is this what you want?
Welcome to American Dreams. My guest today is Keith Gargiulo. Keith, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So Keith, I'm excited. We had a brief meeting at the A360 conference in Southern California at the Torina Resort, and learning about AI and also, the proper way to age on longevity. So, in a brief meeting there, we're able to make some connections. So I'm excited that you're coming on today's show. We can learn more about your model and, business model and how you got to where you are today. So for the listeners, can you give us a timeline from school until, getting up to where you are today?
Sure. So school for me in college was all mechanical engineering, undergrad and grad school. That was in Rensselaer and Troy, New York, and then down at Virginia Tech in Virginia. Interspersed with that was work. I worked at Pratt & Whitney as a co-op. I worked as an engineer at a nuclear power plant between undergrad and grad school. During grad school, I took some time, did some machine design and shop floor work at a company that makes fiber optic cable in Virginia. Since then, I've been at a company called PTC, as well as my wife and I. My wife's a veterinarian, so we own some veterinary practice interests as well, and a number of other things on the side. We have a horse farm, some rental properties, lots of things going on, and a few other projects besides that. That's the last 30 odd years in just a minute.
Well, so I want to delve into the PTC. Currently you're serving as vice president, and you have a title of customer success. So tell me about what is it? How do you define success for the customer?
So PTC is a software company, and we sell our software on subscription. And the only way, whether it's Netflix or anything else that you subscribe to, you keep paying if you're happy and you're getting what you wanted out of it. So the job of the customer success organization, which is very large, is to help our tens of thousands of customers that we either have directly through PTC or through our large partner network, make sure that they're actually getting value out of the software they bought from us, primarily so they get value, then certainly within our own business interests, so they renew their subscription and continue to be a happy customer and ideally expand and use some more of our technology.
And the technology that PTC provides, what is that?
It's software for engineering, manufacturing, and field service. All of it includes a layer of AI. All of it includes a layer of Internet of Things, or IoT technology, both as a platform and as purpose-built solutions that you can deploy automatically, as well as a heavy component of augmented reality, but very much for companies that build physical things, what we call discrete manufacturing. Some applications also in process manufacturing, like a refinery is a process manufacturing. A company that makes toys or missiles or a car is discrete manufacturing.
We're seeing a lot of digitization in the industry, the Internet of Things. And how does digitization impact the business owners?
Completely and entirely and in every way, including whether or not they're still going to be a business owner in 10 years. The degree to which as a business owner, you can anticipate the depth of change that's already started. And it is one of, to steal one of Peter's terms, it is one of those things that has been deceptive for years and is now becoming disruptive and will move on from there. The ability to see through the buzzwords and so forth and actually understand how applying some sort of digital technology in your business is going to be fundamental for anybody that's in the fields that we work with. And it's going to be fundamental to fields beyond the ones that PTC directly works with. For example, in my wife's veterinary practice, there's a number of things there that have nothing to do with discrete manufacturing, but the same concepts of digitization apply. AI is one example of digitization. We're already using that for experimentation with reading radiographs. In human medicine, there are a number of areas where AI is already better than human doctors or human radiologists at reading for certain kinds of cancer and detecting it with more accuracy earlier. And those sorts of things will continue to be a trend. And will become they'll expand in two dimensions. There'll be more places where it's true, and it'll become more true in all those places. That makes sense. And then
Well, the statement, you got to think about that, but yeah, I got it. I got it. So when when you're looking at the impact on manufacturing and digitization, I mean, the old line, the old school was, hey, we're used to our line manufacturing. Will you walk a person through a manufacturing process to show how digitization can impact them and
yes,
improve their process?
yep, for sure. And if you use manufacturing specifically to mean a shop floor where 3D printing is happening or metal chips are being made on a lathe or a formative process like a press is being used, that part of manufacturing, absolutely. And in fact, a lot of what I personally worked on the past 2 years was a purpose-built IoT application using our technology that is specifically for closed loop problem solving on a factory using automated data from the machines. We're actually, some of our more cutting edge stuff is looking at how you use what humans are doing. Humans don't have an Ethernet port. We can't plug in and read from a PLC and identify problems, but you can use some technologies that exist today that to start to take a look at how you would understand really how your labor effectiveness is, how safe people are being is one of the primary, actually the very first use case we've talked about. How can you increase human safety in a factory by using some of these technologies? That's pretty leading edge. Other things that where it's more connected to machines, that's in production and deployment. It sounds leading edge to be able to say that without much human input, you can use a system to point out in your factory where the bottleneck is, when you how much you're affecting it by your continuous improvement process, and after you've made a difference, where did the next bottleneck show up, and have that largely automated for you. And humans are still in the loop, so they take action against what the system recommends to do. But you aren't kind of peanut buttering your continuous improvement efforts over everything in your factory, but really able to focus on the actual bottleneck. So over on my desk, if anybody's worked in manufacturing, you've probably read The Goal or at least heard of it. I've got a second edition over here, and I've got a fifth edition somewhere else. It's that idea of theory of constraints and how do you apply that using technology, not just lots of manual labor and spreadsheets and stopwatches.
It's interesting with the emergence of artificial intelligence. We're just at the very beginning right now. But if you to look in your crystal ball and into the future, how do you foresee artificial intelligence impacting engineering and manufacturing
Sure.
into the future?
So I can use a little bit of current state that will sound like future ball, like crystal ball or future prediction. Today, right now, you can model things. You can pull up a CAD system. Our PTC invented 3D CAD 30 plus years ago. And we have competitors now, and there's lots of software out there in which you can do 3D CAD. Most of it involves a human using a mouse, a keyboard, and a flat screen to give instructions to the computer and create shapes and modify those shapes so you end up with something physical in the computer in 3D that you can then manufacture. And that's traditional modeling in CAD. What you can do with AI, which we've done this for actually years now, is you can tell the system what you want as an outcome. I am working on a component of a spacesuit, and my design constraints are I need it to be as light as possible, has to have certain frequency requirements, has to meet certain temperature requirements, et cetera. All the things that go into the design spec. That's not a shape that you model in a CAD system. That's an important outcome of what you built. I have a certain space constraint. You can tell the system those things, tell it how you want to manufacture it, or even say, I don't know how I want to manufacture it. I might 3D print it. I might mill it. And the system, our software, will be able to use AI to give you a range of options that no human would have ever come up with. I've used this analogy before. and I'm a mechanical engineer, so I'm talking about myself when I say this. If humans designed fish, every fish would look like a submarine because that's what we get. That's what we understand. But in nature, things don't all look the same, and they're still equal. They're tuned to their biomimicry is the term that's used for that in engineering. How do you take things that nature has developed and try to emulate those in the physical systems that we build? Well, using AI or generative design, as we call it, everybody's heard about ChatGPT and GPT-4, and that's a generative system using a large language model. For years, we've done that, use the same term for physical design. You give it the constraints, you give it the outcomes you want, and the system suggests the shape to you, which is almost always a shape that a human couldn't come up with or couldn't physically figure out how to model, even though mathematically the software can handle it because the system does it for you. So that's an example of that sounds futuristic, but is actually something we've been able to do for a while. Another example that is pretty cutting edge is, I'll go back to a factory. Everybody in factories understands continuous improvement process, and and people understand lean manufacturing and those principles. That's a largely manual process, and it's very effective. It works very well, but it takes a lot of human effort to do. Usually, you can apply AI and have AI take a look at all the same sorts of inputs and have it suggest to you where your problems actually are and where the places you ought to go look first. Like we did an experiment like that with a beer company in Europe, where they had certain defects and low quality showing up with lots of kind of scrap rate, we call it. They were scrapping beer, and they were unable to determine the pattern. People who were very expert at the process were not able to take a look at what was going on and understand why. Where was this coming from? We applied AI, and we were able to use the AI was able to figure out what was the fairly complex combination of factors that led to that scrap rate happening, be able to take action on it and improve it. So
These are
those are two
great
examples of right now, actually, even though you asked for crystal ball. Crystal ball
Yeah.
for me, and this is one that I think would be great. Doing design today, if you want to make a physical product, I'm talking to you, looking at a laptop, my screen's next to me, there's a speakerphone here, all the physical things around us. Someone did that kind of traditional or maybe generative design that I just described to design it and eventually make it a product, put it in a store, and you bought it from Amazon or wherever you bought it from. What if I could do what I'm doing right now? And off camera, my hands are waving a little bit. I talk with my hands a lot. I'm talking to you. We're having this discussion. What if I could describe something that I wanted? It could be I could describe a salt shaker. I could describe a car. What if I could use that or augmented reality or virtual reality and have a computer system with AI behind it, natural language processing, another number, computer vision, a number of other technologies that are all exponentially accelerating and converging in their progress. Put all that together. What if I could, so to speak, talk to CAD? I don't need any specialized knowledge. I may not have an engineering degree anymore. But now I can tell it what I want, maybe by logging into a website with maybe a verbal version of a ChatGPT interface, have a conversation about it, and that spits me back out a model and says, hey, is this what you want? No, I'd like to modify that. I want it blue. Oh, okay. Now, actually, it needs to be 3 inches wider, or I need a 4 centimeter hole over here on this space. What if you could have that sort of conversation and totally democratize product design instead of it being in the hands of just companies that have a lot of infrastructure and a lot of capital and a lot of very specialized people that know how to do a very specialized job because they went to 4 or 6 or more years of engineering school, and you have 7 different flavors of engineer that it takes to put together a complex mechatronic project, or even a simple one. You can make a 3-part harmonic balancer, and it still takes several people to try to figure out the mechanics and dynamics of that. What if you could totally democratize that? What if technology could put the power to build things or design things in anyone's hands? And then what if you could manufacture it economically in runs of 1 or 10? Because you're the only person who needs it, but you really need it. And if it's not for sale, you're kind of stuck today. So when I think about where the future of product design would go, that's the sort of discussion I have.
It's amazing. It's exciting, but then the other flip side is it's going to certainly make a lot of current positions obsolete or displace the workforce.
Yes,
And
it's just a full stop. Yes, there's disruption coming, like every other time we've had an industrial revolution.
when and I think that there's a lot of discussion right now. Elon Musk has mentioned about the need for regulation, and others are saying, well, hey, other countries aren't regulating, so it's kind of as they figure out which way to go. I think I think the industries will take upon themselves their own life, and I think all we have to do is look forward to excitement of this change coming, and realize that when change comes, it's also going to impact us and our life. Keith, I want to move into other projects that you're involved with, other projects or causes outside
Sure.
of PTC.
Oh, I've got a lot of places I spend time. Over behind me, I don't know if it's visible, but there's a First Robotics medallion. So I've been involved with First Robotics and in general, a lot of mentoring students in STEM. I'm on the board of a STEM education company based in Connecticut. Uh, that does in school and outside of school STEM education has far more demand than they can find teachers to hire right now. So if anybody out there is in that neighborhood that feels passionate about educating young children up through high school in STEM and is looking for something to do, I know where you can work. And there's a mass. He's got 6x demand what he can find people to provide, and we're talking about how technology could maybe solve some of that capacity problems in that business. I spent a lot of time with First. I spent a lot of time with an organization called Defy Ventures. Defy Ventures teaches entrepreneurship to formerly incarcerated people because it is by far the number one way to prevent recidivism and empower those folks to take control of their lives. That group is only active in a few states. Illinois is one of them, so I've been lucky to be able to spend some time with them. And I would encourage anybody to take a look if you think that's an interesting topic. Um, I have a few things that we do related. We do a lot of volunteering with St. Jude. Like I mentioned, I think I mentioned we have a horse farm. St. Jude has a number of things they do in our area related to horses, and we're kind of deeply involved in that. We have a number of people that we've hired in our business that are former St. Jude kids, and spend a lot of time. I think it's a pretty strong organization. Uh, on my own, outside of PTC work, outside of the vet clinics and the other things, I have my daughter has a number of autoimmune issues. Both my son and my daughter both have some autoimmune issues. My daughter has more of them, and I've been watching how strong she's been and working through a lot of those challenges, which have been pretty onerous in a lot of ways, physical, mental, and other things. She's been able to train her own service dog. She's really established quite a bit more physical strength through horseback riding, which has been more effective for her than any kind of medically prescribed physical therapy or OT that we've been through. Not that those have been ineffective, but the horseback riding's far and away really built up her strength, and that has really led me to think about when people that have disabilities and how people are affected by that. We're in a position where we have a horse farm. We were able to provide her, with the dog that she was able to train on her own to become a service dog. But if you want to buy a service dog, it's $25,000 to $45,000. The median U.S. income's in the 50s, so that would put it out of reach for a great number of people. And that's just one way to help someone who has a disability. It's a fantastic way. So I started to look towards this, inspired a lot by Peter in the A360 community. What sort of massively transformative purpose could be formed around that? And over years, the idea of being able to provide anyone with a disability the tools, what they need to be able to fulfill their potential has really sort of coalesced for me. And some of the moonshots that I've really recently coalesced around how do you go do that is around this idea of service dogs and availability. And what if I could make service dogs about 1,000,000 times more available than they are today? If we were doing a simple graph, you could picture a very tall stack of people who could benefit from a service dog, a vanishingly small stack of dogs actually that go into training each year, of which almost 70% wash out of training, don't actually make it. So the ones that are left are even more vanishingly small. And then there's an even larger stack of dogs that are never evaluated, never even get a chance to think about could they become a service dog. And there's some good reasons for that and some bad reasons for that. So I started thinking about that. How could I use technology to try to solve that problem? And between looking at availability, looking at the time it takes to train effectively, getting that 70% washout rate down to something in the single digits, increasing the number of trainers, increasing the speed to skill, to become a qualified trainer that can actually do a good job. there's like 5 or 6 factors that I'm looking at. And by making each one of them a bit better, you can get to 1 million times more service dog availability, which puts a massive dent in that problem pretty fast if I can get there. But I've got the why to do it, and I've got the what I want to do pretty clear in my head. The how, which actually I think really is good to come third, not first. I'm still working on. I've got ideas on that, but that's an area where looking for people that are that find that intriguing, think they might be able to help, looking for networks and partnerships to form on that front. I don't know that it's a business. It's not important to me that it's a business. It's important to me that I try to figure it out.
I love it. In causes, getting behind causes like this and benefiting that group of individuals that have challenges in life with autoimmune deficiencies and all the other disabilities. I believe that people, as they bring solutions to the table, or just bless humankind as an entirety. It's one thing's for certain. All we have is time in life, being mortal, and we go through life. The more we can find solutions to benefit and bless the lives of others, I think it gives our more fulfillment to our own life. So
I've been couldn't be more proud of my daughter and the inspiration she's given me watching her work through and overcome these. It has not been easy. It continues to not be easy some days, but that's been a real motivator for me. There's one other thing that I forgot to mention that I do. My wife and I both spend time with. It's an organization called CASA, which may or may not be familiar to people, but it is an organization that supports children who are in, quote unquote, in the system in the United States, who are in the system because their parents or guardians have been accused of neglect or abuse. And the system isn't great. I don't think that's going to be shocking news to anyone who's paid any attention at all. But the system also allows for some things like this to happen. So as a CASA, you are actually an officer of the court, and we work directly with the kids and are only there for the kids. We actually report directly to the judge through no one, not through a lawyer or anybody else, about what the kids actually want to have happen, which is sometimes unbelievably difficult. Some of these kids are in heart-wrenching situations. Some of them are in fairly stable foster homes, and the goal is actually to get them back to a quality, loving, safe environment with their natural parents. That is actually the primary goal all the time. But sometimes that reality can't be achieved. And we're there to help look out for those kids and make their wishes directly known to the judge in the case. Which there's things like a guardian ad litem. That's not what they do. That's a guardian of the children for the duration of the trial. They're not really there reporting to the judge about what the kids want. It's an organization we found a lot of value in, and want to talk about it here, advocate for it in case anybody listening would like to see themselves get involved.
So, Keith, how would a person go about contacting you? You're behind a lot of really, really good causes.
Well, I have no problem just giving my personal email here. I think that's fine. It's my last name dot my first name, GARGIULO dot Keith, KEITH @gmail.com. It's probably the easiest way to do it. That email will be there forever.
Well, Keith, it's been a pleasure having you with us today on American Dreams.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the conversation.